So, ladies and gentlemen, the COE has experienced over the last few years the art of co-creation of various use cases in industries, taking innovations to them and ensuring not only they are happy, but also their success stories become an inspiration for other adoptees. Now, you can talk to us and we can support you in this case. I'll introduce the team. We have Mahadevi. Mahadevi is sitting with us on the first table. Mahadevi, can you please stand up? So she's Mahadevi. In case you need to talk to us, she's one of the persons. We have Raghu. Raghu is in the grey suit. And Sushant is right there. Sushant is there. You already know who Sushant is. So in case you need to talk to us in this case, these are the people, you can meet them. So moving on to a very exciting segment, I would like to introduce Mr. Rakesh Prasad, Senior Vice President at Innover. A very passionate person about solving business problems, leveraging digital and analytic solutions, and partnering with clients to thrive in an open digital economy. He has spent 16 years at the intersection of business and technology and has delivered consistent results in leading digital transformation programs, managing global teams, and delivering business growth. Please join us. Welcome Mr. Rakesh Prasad.
Good afternoon, everybody, and I'm very aware that I'm between you guys and grabbing lunch, so I kind of make it as quick and short as possible for all of you. First of all, thank you to NASCOM for allowing us to partner in this event that is happening, and for us, it's very exciting, primarily because it is something that everybody has been talking about for the last 1.5 years, right? Certainly after Facebook changing its name, Oculus lenses suddenly from a gaming device becoming something very interesting that all of us who are 40 plus and had no idea what the gaming is excited about what Oculus does. And the industry has changed very drastically, very quickly. And as I've heard a lot of you today morning in my interaction, is there noise around this? Yes, absolutely. And that is the reality of every new technology that we will see. The early part will be a lot of noise, and it's very challenging for us to figure out how do we cut through the noise and come to a place where it makes sense for all of us. And I think a lot of panelists I heard, everybody touched upon the fact that there has to be a use case based approach of how you are going to evolve this whole metaverse technology in context of your own business and how you are going to adopt it, right? And Innover as an organization, right? And I think it, okay, how do I, does this keep, okay, perfect, I found a way. So I think as an organization, I just want to kind of give you a sense, because we are pretty young in this whole industry itself, right? We have been now in existence only for three years, and first 2 years of our existence was COVID year. So it was very shocking when we started out figuring out, okay, what the hell happened and how do we change and adopt to the world. But the beauty of the business that we were in, we were always kind of positioning ourselves to be in a place which is around, connected and insights driven business was what we were trying to build for our customers. So even before Metaverse came into the ecosystem, the idea was to say that, all the customers that we are talking to or will potentially like to talk to are in a world where they have to engage with their ecosystem. Now, your ecosystem can be a consumer in a B2C world and your partners and suppliers, or your ecosystem can be a B2B world with your other manufacturers and other partner suppliers that come into play, right? So from an organization standpoint, the idea had always been that how do I build a connected ecosystem and an insights-driven ecosystem for my customers. So that's where we started out as an organization, and that start was based on a lot of technology stacks that we are now talking about that are now combining together to kind of power metaverse or potentially power metaverse in a way that will be valuable for all of us, right? So if you now take that, everybody has talked about. Let me see if I can find a way to move forward. Okay. And I know this is something that I definitely wanted to put this out there. It is very critical for us as a startup to make sure all our customers have a point of view of who we are, right? When you're small companies, there are a lot of questions about, hey, is it a, just small company coming up and just trying to find its way, or how established? So just from a growth standpoint, this just gives you a sense that with 2 years of challenging world that all of us were trying to figure out, I think we have been able to establish a very good run rate, primarily because of the focus around the technology stack that we are trying to build in. And that's something that is very important. But I think the fundamental aspect that I wanted to kind of highlight and kind of talk about it before we go and talk about metaverse, what it is all about, how we are evolving it, there are some very critical building blocks that we were working with prior to kind of getting into this whole world of metaverse that has actually allowed us in a way to have a better conversation faster, right? So web 3.0, which is all around trying to build out the customer experiences in a very different way for our customers, including not just pretty websites, but also trying to build it more personalized, a journey driven approach as to how customers and consumers want to engage with you, right? That has kind of become one of the building blocks that now we see very critical when we talk about, hey, how do I design and how do I work in a new world of metaverse, right? The second big one is always been the analytics space, which I think is the fundamental part of how metaverse will eventually evolve. And it is a very important thing. I think the one of the key things which one of our previous presenter talked about is who will own the customer data at the end in metaverse is going to change the game. And I know all of us, most of us are from manufacturing or CPG background. In today's world, most of the customer data is owned by retailers. And there is always a challenge about how much retailers will share with you or will not share with you and how much they will charge you for that. Now imagine if you're thinking about, hey, there's a new world that is coming in metaverse and you want to now rely on either your own or a shared space. The fundamental thing comes in how much data you will get access to and how will you then build the analytical model underneath it to truly change the experience. Because as our panelists touched upon, it's not just about, hey, pretty experience. I came in, I was in a virtual world, I did something and walked away. It is how much did you learn, how much did you gain from being there, and what value it generated for you to go back again. Because if I'm going to go and visit that only once in 1 month, all the metaverses are going to fail. It has to have a reason for us to be there multiple. So that's where analytics becomes a key part and becomes a building block of it. And then data engineering is fundamentally the pipe that will feed the whole data foundation that you want to build. And it will not be limited to, as we say, the data you will get with the experience or someone being in metaverse. It has to have some historic data for you to now make it much more real for somebody who's coming in. So if Rakesh is going in and trying to go, for example, I love TVS bikes, so I'm going to a TVS metaverse, how much they know about me will also help them better engage with me when I'm there. So the data engineering aspect, technology becomes very important. And last but not least, the whole software engineering aspect of it. We have heard about blockchain, we have heard about the fact that distributed ledger is going to power the whole foundation, right? So the reason I think we kind of reached a space where we started having conversation early on, because when we're doing these conversations with our customer, they're already talking to us, hey, how the new technology is going to come and evolve, right? And when metaverse hit, it just became, I would say, a logical extension for us to start working with our customers to try and build some sense around it. And again, I'm being very clear that we are trying to just build some sense around it. And somebody asked the question around ROI. I think it's a very interesting point of view that ROI has to be very, very calibrated when it comes to a new technology. I mean, we all believe, or at least have been feeling, that AI analytics and AI ML has arrived and it is now changing the world. But it took them a long time before AI ML actually started delivering ROI, real ROI to businesses. So every new technology will have a, I would say, incubation period before true ROI comes in. But you need to have a softer definition of what you are trying to build for. And that is where, when you look at our services, we have kind of made it very clear that at the end of the day, we are going to focus this whole service and offering of our digital experience around customer experience and engagement. And I want to take a point to define customer experience and engagement. the industry context of customer experience and engagement is very driven through what your customers or what your consumers get. But the way we want to look at it is even your employees from a training standpoint, from an enablement standpoint, they are also your internal customers. So one of the biggest use cases or area of adoption where it is going to at least allow the initial adoption in our point of view is going to be in the customer experience space. Now it could be for your external customers and consumers or your internal customers and consumers, and how you define it. But the key part for you will be to define that experience, which becomes very important in terms of how you do that customer journey optimization within the metaverse. Why are they coming in? How are they going to engage? What are you going to do with them when they are there? And what is the outcome you're driving? And the second part becomes how the personalization is going to work. Because at the end of the day, if it remains very, I would say, like what you have today with a lot of platforms that you did something, they are going to give you the same ads over and over again, does not really help. So personalization becomes the key aspect. And last but not least, right, everybody talked about this transaction part of it. So commerce part needs to be integrated into the ecosystem of how you think about building this, right? And transaction to us, or the commerce part, will come in only when your experience part becomes much more richer and much more relevant for the customer group that you're trying to target, right? And the commerce part may not be relevant when you're talking about a training use case, but think about it as a transaction. You want certifications when somebody's trained. So the transaction aspect is the aspect of commerce that you have to think about. It's not always about money changing hands. It's about a transaction that needs to happen in the digital space, right? So that's how we are thinking in terms of how metaverse will come to play, and how at least being an organization early on into this, where we can help our customers go over, right? So, and these are just some of the use cases which are, one of them directly linked to metaverse, but all of them from a work standpoint goes on to feeding what you're going to build. So going back to the theme that we discussed, it's not something that will stand alone on its own. You have to figure out how do you merge it with other technologies and other solutions that you already have and kind of bring it all together, right? So that's our point of view. And again, going back to where we started out, technologies are always there, but the focus has to be solving a problem. So if there is a tangible use case that you can define where we believe together a digital experience can solve that problem, that's where it comes to play, right? So that's who we are. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our story to this audience. And we have a roundtable. You all are most welcome to join us after lunch. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, sir.